Around 50% of the international students who study here in Australia do higher degree programs. That obviously includes their bachelor's, master's and PhDs. And many of them do their masters here in Australia. I was one of them. I did my master's in accounting here in Australia as well. So in this video, we are going to give you an ultimate guide about studying master's degree here in Australia. So if you have any interest of studying master's degree in Australia, this is the video you must watch, as I'm going to cover plenty of information regarding the requirements, work opportunities, universities, costs involved, popular courses, scholarships, and post-study work visas as well. If you want to know all this information, stick around till the end. Now, first thing first, let's discuss why you should study master's degree in Australia. Obviously, there are plenty of other countries you can choose from, so why Australia only? The first point will be the quality education. Australian universities does rank really well in most of the university ranking, and the quality of education in Australia is pretty good. The second reason will be the availability of courses. If you are planning to do master's degree in any field, there are plenty of courses to choose from. So the chances are that if you're planning to study some master's course overseas, you'll probably find that in Australia. Apart from that, there are part-time work opportunities for international students. So students can work part-time while they're still studying. That's a huge bonus for many international students. And last but not the least, there are options for post-study work visas as well after completing your course. So these are my top 4 reasons for why you should choose to study master's degree. Now let's move to the requirements that you have to meet in order to study master's degree. The first thing first, if you're going to study master's, you will need to have completed a bachelor's degree. That is a must requirement, as you will only move to the master's degree after completing bachelor's. Apart from that, you may have to also undertake an English language test, which could be IELTS or PTE or other relevant tests, and usually you have to have a minimum scores in these English language tests as well. As an example, if you are undertaking IELTS test, you must have at least minimum of 6.5 overall score, and again the requirements may vary depending upon the university you're planning to study. Apart from that, you usually have to write a GTE statement, sometimes also known as statement of purpose, explaining about why you want to study in Australia. You also may have to undertake a GMAT or GRE test as well, especially if you're planning to do certain master's courses. And very importantly, you will need a student visa, which is mostly subclass 500. So these are some of the basic requirements. Obviously, there may be some other requirements depending upon the university you're planning to study as well. We have actually got a complete article on the entry requirements for different type of courses. So if you want to know that, we'll leave the link of that in the description box for you. Now moving on to the next part, which is the duration of the master's course. So there are 2 types of master's courses that you can do here in Australia. One is master's by coursework and other one is master's by research. Master's by coursework basically means your typical sort of study where you have to go to university regularly, do assignments, do exams and stuff like that. Master's by research, however, is more like research based course. There may not be any classes you have to attend or do assessments, but you usually have to submit your thesis at the end of your studies. So if you're doing master's by coursework, the duration of that course could be around 1 to 2 years. However, the duration of the master's research could vary. It depends upon your research as well, or it can be longer as well. Now let's move on to talk about some of the popular courses that international students do here in Australia. Of course, there are many courses available for international students to study here, but there are some specific popular ones that most of the international students study. So I'm going to give you some of these top courses in this section. So in business stream, you will see many international students do Masters of Business Administration, also known as MBA, and Masters of Accounting. And if we talk about the IT or computer line, then there are students who do usually Masters of IT, Information Technology, or Masters of Data Science. Apart from that, students also do master's degree in engineering, in nursing, in social work, and so on. Of course, you can choose whatever course you're planning to study, and there are many other type of courses available for international students, but I just gave you some of the most popular courses that international students do here. Now let's move on to the universities that you can study. So we'll divide this into 2 sections. First, we'll talk about the top 5 universities in Australia, then we'll look at some of the most affordable universities. So the top 5 university includes University of Melbourne, the University of Sydney, University of New South Wales, Monash University, and Australian National University. We actually have a whole video where we discuss about the top 10 universities in Australia and also talk about their specializations as well. So if you want to know that, please check the link in the description and watch that video after this video. Now we look at some of the affordable universities. That includes the University of Sunshine Coast, the Federation University, Charles Darwin University, University of Southern Queensland, and Central Queensland University. Of course, there are some more affordable universities here in Australia as well. If you want me to make a video on that, please let me know in the comment section section below. Now let's move on to the costs. How much it costs to study your master's degree in Australia. Now obviously the tuition fee of the course will vary depending upon the university, location, and the type of course you're doing. But just to give you some numbers, your master's degree can cost anywhere from $22,000 per year to $50,000 per year. So that means that if your master's degree is around 2 years, then you are expecting to pay anywhere between $44,000 to $100,000. And apart from that, you also have to consider your cost of living costs as well. That could vary again depending upon your lifestyle, the city you are living in, type of accommodation you find out, and so on. But expect to spend anywhere between $20,000 to $25,000 per year for your living costs. So if you're living for a couple of years to do your masters, expect to pay around $40,000 to $50,000 for those 2 years. So if you're looking at the total cost, it could be anywhere from $84,000 to $150,000 for the duration of the whole course. That obviously includes your tuition fee and the cost of living as well. Of course, again, as I said, it could vary depending upon different factors, and these numbers are just averages, so consider that you may be paying less or more depending upon your situation. So the next one is the scholarships to study master's degree. Now, as an international student, you can definitely look to get some scholarships while studying here in Australia, and usually you have to apply them before you start your course. So for the first type of scholarships you can score is Australian government sponsored scholarships. There are a few of them like Australia Awards, Destination Australia, and there are some research based scholarships by the Australian government as well. Apart from that, you can also look for university scholarships. Usually most of the universities have some scholarships available which international students can apply for. So you need to go to the university website in order to find those scholarships. Of course, the scholarship amounts could vary, but this is something you need to research on the website of your university you're planning to study. And last but not the least, you can also look on some other organizations like Rotary Club or some other clubs or associations who sponsor some of these scholarships as well. So make sure to check other private organizations who sponsorship or provide these scholarships to international students. It could be that sometime your own home government websites also could be providing some scholarships for studying overseas. So check your own government websites as well. Now let's move on to the work opportunities for international students who are doing masters in Australia. So as an international student, while you are studying, you can do part-time jobs here. Now when it comes to the work hours, you have to abide by 24 hours per week or 48 hours per fortnight while your study is in session, which means while you're studying, you must abide by these restrictions. However, if you have official school holidays, you can work unlimited hours during those holidays. So these restrictions specifically apply to the students who are doing their masters by coursework. If you are a student who's doing your masters by research, you can work unlimited hours even when your study is in session or even when you're doing your research. So there are no work restrictions for international students who are doing their masters by research in Australia. Now another good thing, if you're doing masters in Australia and if you're bringing your partner or your dependent with you, then your partner or dependent can work unlimited work hours as well. So even if you're doing masters by coursework, your dependent can still work full-time work hours, which is pretty good. And obviously once you finish your course, you can apply for some post-study work visas where you can work more hours as well, which is our next section as well. So let's discuss about post-study work visa options after completing your masters in Australia. Now, first thing first, before I get started, I need to make a quick disclaimer here that I'm not a migration agent, so I can't legally advise you on what type of visas you can apply. But after gathering information from Department of Home Affairs, I can certainly give you some information regarding that. Not a migration advice though. For that, I highly recommend you to speak to a migration agent. So after completing your master's degree, students can usually apply for the temporary graduate visa, subclass 485. And the duration of this visa can be anywhere from 3 to 5 years, again depending upon many factors such as the course you have completed, the location, university, and so on. The purpose of this visa is actually to allow international students to find a job in their own field and potentially qualifying for the permanent residency pathways. And if you have been following news updates regarding the post-study work visas, there were recent updates regarding that. So international students who are studying some specific qualifications from some specific universities could be eligible for additional post-study work visas. And that's why I mentioned earlier that the duration of your post-study work visa could vary depending upon those factors. So if you want to know about that, we'll leave a link of that in the description box below where you can read a complete article on that on our website. Now that was that regarding the master's degree in Australia for international students. Now if you want to know whether you should study master's degree or bachelor's degree in Australia, we got a complete video on that topic. So click the link on the screen that's appearing right now and watch that video, and I'll see you there.